Okay guys, so this is one of my last outings with Moonshine, who's wrapping up her 4-week board and train here at Bark Brigade. Now, I'd be the first person to tell you that Moonshine is not the most impressive dog in the world, obedience-wise. I mean, she's not going to turn heads on an Instagram reel by any means. However, she's one of the dogs I'm the most proud of so far in my training career because of the state she came in, her baseline. So the first day we got Moonshine, she hadn't had much of a life. She's 3. She's been reactive for a long time and explosively reactive. Like, when she saw a person or a dog or anything really in the environment that she was unfamiliar with, it was, I'm going to get you before you get me. It was impossible to walk her. She pulled like a freight train. She really hadn't been, outside of the house or the yard for the most part, other than, some walks around the neighborhood. And to no fault of the owner. This is not a genetically easy dog, and those behavioral issues just trickled down to make it, really, really hard to do anything with her when those behaviors got cemented. So without proper, good training in place, this is not an easy dog to live with. Just her genetics and the nervous system that she was born with. So just having her in a situation like this is a miracle in itself. You gotta realize, guys, day 1 when I got this dog, she really couldn't be walked. She was reactive to everything, and just taking her places was the end of the world. She'd be vibrating, shaking. First couple times I tried taking her to a department store, she was so anxious that she would just defecate herself from the anxiety and not knowing what to do. So what we've done with this dog is taught her how to deal with pressure, how to find confidence in the obedience and her handler, so that we can get her around the stuff that freaks her out and desensitize her to it and show her it's not actually that scary. So when she sees, people, kids, dogs, doesn't matter, we've broken through all that arousal and shown her to have confidence in the obedience and the handler, and eventually she starts to figure out that this stuff isn't that scary. You gotta remember, with these dogs, the pity mixes, the Rotties, the Shepherds, when they are so scared for their life in those situations, which they truly fear for their lives when they see these things that trigger them, they have a fight or flight response. And generally these sort of bully breeds, they lean towards the fight side of that response. And it's, I'm gonna get you before you get me. So while they're not truly aggressive, and by aggressive I mean like a dog that gets kicks out of dominating, beating up on, biting, killing, another living thing, that is not this dog, but they are so fearful, that they can be dangerous, that they can be so scared for their life that they might bite someone if they don't have the confidence in themselves and the confidence in their handler. So everyone always thinks that, balanced training, that, putting tools on a dog, putting obligation on a dog only works for the dogs that are strong, hard-headed, that, they need to be beat up on a little bit, but that's not true. This dog was an anxious mess when she first came in, had no self-confidence. She couldn't be in an environment like this. Asking this dog to down, she was a trembling, shaking, nervous mess. She couldn't get into position. It's a vulnerable position, and she got that terrified of getting into it. So what do? We put pressure on the dog to do these things we're asking it, and then really celebrate its wins, showing it that, avoiding the pressure, getting into that down, getting into that heel, these are the places that you want to be. So there's a lot of obligation we put on the dog. We don't mess around. We don't let her just opt out of these things that she finds scary anymore, but we have empathy about it. We don't bully the dog. We don't force it into things. We do force it, but we do it nicely. We have patience with the dog. We go bit by bit, step by step. We understand, what we can ask for the dog at certain times, but we do put pressure on the dog to get over this stuff. We don't just baby it. We don't just throw food at it, hoping the problems are going to go away. We put some pressure and obligation on the dog, but we also give the dog a lot of leadership and structure. So for the first couple of times, I'll be honest, I have only corrected this dog for reactivity, the 4 weeks he's been with me, 3 times. Twice in the first couple of days I had her, and once when I first started experimenting with off-leash, and she was at a distance from me, and a dog came running out of fence line, super aroused, barking at her, and she made the wrong choice and got a correction. 3 single times she's been corrected for reactivity. But those corrections were crystal clear on why she was getting corrected. And they were significant enough to inhibit the behavior and make her not want to do it again. It set a very clear boundary for her. And once we do that, once we show the dog that that sort of behavior, the reactivity, the aggression, it's completely unacceptable, it's the worst path they can go down, then we can start showing them other avenues to take. Once we break through that arousal, we can start showing them like, hey, you can just avoid that situation entirely and just stick with me, and I will keep you safe. I will not let dogs approach you that are behaving that way. I'm not going to let people mess with you in social situations. Stick with me, follow the rules, don't pull me, mind your business, and I will keep you safe. And what that gets the dog to be able to do is be in these situations that they used to not be able to be in without blowing their lid the whole time, in a calmer state of mind, able to take in the environment and start to realize, oh, this isn't that big of a deal. And that's when you get the dog where, she's off leash and another dog is, reacting, walking by us, and she is just calm, cool, because I've asked her to go into a down, and she trusts me to go into that down and make sure that no one messes with her. And that's where you get the people saying like, oh my God, how do you get your dog to do that? She's so calm, because we have crystal clear expectations, and we make the dog trust us. Now here we're just working on some heel work, walking around the department store, and she's not perfect. No dog is perfect, but this one, she really isn't yet. She's gonna need, to keep going on her confidence when she goes home. And that's gonna be a big part of the process, right? Being straight up with the owners about where she's doing really well and where, she still needs to work on. Every dog has its strengths and weaknesses over a 4-week board and train. Even 6 weeks, we don't have the dog for its whole life, and we can only work with the dog that comes through the doors on the first day. For this dog, confidence is a huge one. We didn't even really get to work on obedience with this dog until like the 1 to 2 week mark, because we just needed her to open up. Right there, she got a little correction because she popped out of her heel, but she understands the correction. Before, she would go running off screaming, trying to hide from that or freak out and shut down. She understands the correction, so she bounced right back into her heel and started engaging with me. And that is the difference between good balance training and bad balance training. When I correct a dog, I make sure they know exactly why they're being corrected, and I make sure they understand that it is not an option to not comply, and they find confidence in that. Like you can see this dog is like, the dog doesn't lie, right? And this dog is happy to be working with me. Her body language is good. She's engaged with me, and she's confident enough to hold this kind of obedience in this busy situation. And I'm confident enough in her, and I trust her enough to have her off leash in a department store, right? Like that is, you really gotta have a lot of trust in your obedience to do this with a dog that's not mine, that I am liable for, and technically I'm not actually supposed to have her on leash here, so I'm probably gonna pop it back on soon. I'm just trying to really prove a point here and prove Moonshine's obedience. Because while I can do all the obedience work with her on leash, I think they still do kind of know when that leash is on, and you don't really know what's underneath until you pop that leash off. So this was a dog where terrified of the world, no confidence at all. And by putting her through the same training program that we put all the dogs through, the dogs that are way too confident and push their owners around and kind of need to be checked a little bit, it still works with a nervous, anxious dog that's unable to leave the house because it follows the same, basic training principles. It just gets tweaked a little bit for each dog. I didn't ask for a crazy amount of obedience with Moonshine. Right there, she tried to break the heel again, got a little correction, popped right back into it. 2 weeks ago, that would have, you tried to correct her, she would have went screaming, running off, because she's learned that she could check out. And that's the thing, in the first couple weeks, I didn't ask for too much obedience. I didn't ask her to be perfect, because I knew she couldn't handle it. She could barely handle walking on leash, just being out in the environment and feeling comfortable. So we go step by step, building that relationship, building that understanding, so that now she can find confidence in the obedience. This environment that used to be way too much for her to handle, she's confident in the heel, she's confident in the down, because she knows that I have a certain expectation of her in those positions, but I'm not going to let anything happen to her. And that is the thing that these dogs need. They need the leadership, they need the structure, and you need to be okay putting pressure on them and correcting them for when they are, acting like idiots. And that's where you start to see the confidence bleed through. It's super counterintuitive, but the way I think about it is, just like if you have kids, if you baby them, if you never address those issues, then they're just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse, and sometimes they need a bit of an intervention. It's a little ugly in the beginning, but then you get to the point where they actually find confidence in this stuff, where they realize like, oh, I can't just check out. I can't just, opt out of the stuff this guy is asking me. I need to learn how to work through this stuff, and we learn to work through it with them, and this is the result. And it's the result every single time. There's been no dog that's come through that we haven't been able to have these kind of changes with. Every dog has a different starting and ending point, but every single dog gets to the point where they have off-leash obedience. You can take them anywhere, and their confidence skyrockets.